Republicans and Democrats. That's what's wrong with them. John Adams said he thought the greatest threat to American democracy would be the two-party system. That it would do exactly what it has done. It has become two extremes, you know. And both of them, even though I think the Democrats have shown more willingness to compromise, they still have their holy grail, and the Republicans have their holy grail, and they're not compatible with each other. The art of compromise is gone. It used to be you had statesmen like Adlai Stevenson or even Lyndon Johnson. Lyndon Johnson was a great organizer. He could get people from both sides of the aisle to agree on a middle ground so things could get done, you know. Clinton was decent, but since Bush went into office and alienated the extreme left and became the darling of the extreme right, both sides started electing the Republicans more so, extremists, but both sides were pretty positions set in stone, you know what I mean? And there doesn't seem to be a middle ground. We have elected a Congress of midgets when we have giants work to do. We are, use any cliche you want to, you know, we're trivializing a very, very, very serious situation, not only here in this country, but in Western Europe as well. Very serious thing. And it's not going to be solved by words and slogans, you know, bickering back and forth. It's going to be solved by reasonable men and women sitting down with other reasonable men and women and getting things done. But there doesn't seem to be any reasonable men and women out there. Who are we going to get? McConnell, Rand Paul, who is so extreme it's laughable, you know, and that they get elected is beyond me. It's beyond me. Doesn't anybody listen or think? You know, I mean, in the Senate race in Nevada in 2010, it was Harry Reid and Sharon Angle. She's right up there with Bachman, or who's the one that isn't a witch? What's her name? The one in...
Palin?
Huh?
Palin?
Oh, no. The one that said she was a witch, but she's not a witch anymore. She was a witch when she was young. She made that famous commercial, "I'm not a witch." It's right up there with Nixon's, "Your president is not a crook." That's bizarre things American politicians have said. I hold no respect for hardly Dennis Kennedy. I can never can say his name, out of Cleveland. Thank you. And Barney Frank. They're pretty much the only two people in the Congress that I admire. You know, they seem to have stuck to their guns. In a way, I kind of like Ron Paul, only because he has stuck to his guns, not because I agree with him. I agree with him on two ideas: end the war on drugs and get the fuck out of the Middle East. You want to stop radical Islamic terrorism? That's what they like to call it. They call it freedom fighters. Get out of the Middle East. Get our troops out of there. We're the ones that invaded them. They didn't invade us. You know? People in the United States seem to think things happen in a vacuum. That 9/11 happened just because these 19 guys decided one day they didn't like Americans, just, you know, because they didn't like us. Or like Bush said, they didn't like us for our freedoms. Yeah. So he gave us the Patriot Act. No, that it wasn't their complaint at all. Their complaint was we prop up brutal dictators, you know, in Syria, in Egypt, in Tunisia, in Saudi Arabia, in Yemen, you know, that we have been at war with Iraq in some way or another since 1993. That's when Bush first invaded them. After Bush was out of office, Clinton bombed them for 8 years. And then the next Bush came in and invaded them again. That's a long damn time for a country that's really pretty small. You know? Politics. We don't have any politics. We have extremes. That's what I think. I'm disgusted with all of them, Phil. And I don't see any hope on the horizon. Oh, of course, you know, I mean, I grew up with baseball. I grew up in Roswell, New Mexico, and Amarillo, Texas, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. These are not big, sophisticated towns. But the one thing they all had was Little League baseball. And my dad was a professional ball player, not baseball, but softball. He coached. I played. You know, I mean, I was a good player. I just couldn't hit. You know, I pitched a couple of no-hitters, and you know, Little League, and in high school, I pitched one in high school and a couple of them in Little League. You know, I started on a championship team, but I couldn't hit. But when I was in prison in California, when I kind of liked the Dodgers growing up, but you know what? I just thought of it today. The reason I liked them, I liked their names. Duke Snyder, Pee Wee Reese, Preacher Rowe. You know, I thought those were cool names, which I think is how I first started liking the Dodgers. They were still in Brooklyn then, you know, but when I was in prison, we got Vince Scully's broadcast of the Dodger games at night. And my God, baseball will take you away from that horrible environment you're in for that 3 hours of, you know, hanging on every pitch. One year, I think it was 63, it may have been 64, they went all the way and beat the Yankees in 4 games in the World Series. It was great. You know, it lightened their load. And I've been a baseball fan all my life. I think it's the most beautiful of games. So intricate. It's the chess of team sports. Going there and seeing that today, that was really cool. You know, and I may have already said it, it made me a kid again. I want to grab a bat, let's get a game. I'm going to find a glove somewhere. And that's all you need is a ball, a glove, and a bat. Some kids, which I consider myself one of them. It's the economy. I knew. I mean, I quit a 6-figure income job and got in comedy when there wasn't any place to work. And by the time I got good, there was plenty of places to work, including here in Louisville, Kentucky. I knew then, by the late 80s, I knew we were established. We weren't going anywhere. We are part of the American art scene. Almost every town of any consequence has a comedy club. Some of them have 2 or 3. You know, some of the big cities have 4. You know what I mean? And it is no more going to go away than the blues is going to go away, or country and western music is going to go away, or theater is going to go away, or ballet is going to go away. Ballet is in almost every city, and I guarantee you there's a lot more people that like comedy than do ballet. You know, I mean, ballet is a beautiful art, but, you know.
Why do you think the huge resurgence back towards comedy now?
The economy, and they know it's there, and they've come back to it. It may have fallen off a little bit, but there's nothing else like it, Phil. There's nothing like dude, having to catch a really good comic doing a really good show is one of the finest ways to spend an hour and a half, as there is in America. My God, everybody likes to laugh. And you go see somebody like Kenny Rogerson, who'll make you almost pee on yourself for an hour and a half while he's up there. It's a great experience. And I think, historically it's done well in bad times. Movies are doing fine right now. People want escapism. It's grim out there for a lot of people. It's grim. Millions out of work and millions more are worried about being out of work. In my opinion. What do I know?